So the Fed just made their vote, and rates did go down by 1/4 of a point. This is Ron Weissakarski for the Black Hole of Real Estate. And today's Fed meeting has done exactly what we thought was going to happen. It dropped rates by 1/4%, and it lowers that benchmark rate into that range of 3.75 to 4, where the interbank lending happens and banks borrow from the Fed. So that adds some liquidity, and that's a really good thing. So we were expecting that, and what that means is rates might go down just a little bit more, but not necessarily the whole 1/4 point, because the market has been pricing it in for the last week or 10 days. Now, what's interesting is Fed Chair Jerome Powell mentioned that it's no longer a guarantee or a certainty that rates are going to drop December 8th and 9th. And he gives a couple of reasons. Number one is because the government's been shut down for 28 days. There's an absolute vacuum of data. There's nothing recent to go on, and there is some concern that GDP, gross domestic product, is going to be suffering for this month-long shutdown from the government. And while they believe that most of what is lost will come back when the government reopens, there's this looming $8 to $10 billion that may not come back. So that's a lot of money to throw around, and it has a little bit to do with the interest rates on your home loan, but overall, it has a lot more to do with the economy and inflation. And the Fed has been doing this balancing act for quite some time right now, where they're attempting to keep rates low and inflation low. So tracking a benchmark rate of about 2% for inflation has been a difficult task, as the economy has just muddled through most of 2024 and also 2025. Well, we've been in this loop for a while. So what does it mean to you as someone who might be buying a house? Well, the first thing I will say is rates might be as low as they're going to be through the end of the year based on this latest projection from the Fed chair. So the rate drop we got today might be the last one for 2025. Now, to give some insight on that, the Federal Open Market Committee, these are the Fed governors, they ones that do the voting. So there was 12 votes today. 10 voted in favor of a 1/4 point drop. He voted for a 1/2 point drop, which would have been really interesting. And one said, no, there's no drop whatsoever. So 10 out of 12 said a 1/4 point was right. And now we got to find out what's going to happen at the next one. Will some of the Fed governors be spooked off by economic data, inflation points, or lack of data if the government shutdown continues? So that could really put a wrinkle into what happens in December. And a lot of people are banking on a lower interest rate in December to get it right into that 6% range, maybe even 5.875. If you're looking at buying and you want to take the bird in hand, then today is a really good interest rate for you in the foreseeable, week or 2 weeks ahead is probably going to be the best rates we see. And then we cross our fingers, and hopefully there are some indications as we get closer to December, maybe around the 1st of December, that says, it looks like that next Fed rate drop is coming. If they look to keep it neutral, they'll probably hover in the same place, could tick up, tick down a little bit depending on how aggressive your bank is. But if there are indications that inflation is increasing as we get some economic data in right around that 1st of December, that could actually cause the Fed to maybe raise rates back up if they need to tame that inflation. Now, we don't have the crystal ball. We can't give you all the news, but I can give you the options and lay out what's going to happen. So right now, it's a really good day for consumers. Rates did come down. It's still possible they can come down again in December, but it's less likely than it was a few hours ago based on the lack of economic data due to the government shutdown. Okay, so let's lighten up the mood over here. If you're looking to buy a home right now, rates are a lot better than they were even a month ago, and way better than they were a year ago. We're at the lowest rate in a long, long time, more than a year. So that's good. We also saw some data that just came through that said September home prices were up, but by about 1%. They're looking at 0.7, 0.8%. So it didn't come down. They went up a little bit, but not as much as it's been tracking. So in the year over year, looking back at September, it's a little higher than it was last September. And it's been more all year long. The only difference is it didn't go up as much in September as it did the first 2 quarters of the year. We'll be watching that too. Nowhere have we seen prices going down, especially in the states of Florida and other surrounding areas in the southeast. And maybe that's going to be the next hotbed as far as people are chasing away from things like snow, because it's that time of year. We're going to watch all the economic data points. We're going to let you know where the price movement is happening and prices are going up or down. But for those of you waiting for prices to come down and rates to come down, I think you get one or the other. Matter of fact, you did get the interest rate to come down. I don't think you're going to get both. But it would be good for the consumer if it happened. But I don't know if anybody's going to want to sell a home for less money, so you may starve for inventory. It's going to be interesting to watch what takes place right now. But if you were a betting person, I would bet that there's a really good chance that you still might see some sort of an interest rate break in December, if not maybe at the first meeting of 2026. Prices should remain steady, so if you're a home seller, that's good news, and it's okay to get your home on the market. It might be the most opportune time for you to be able to make a move, take advantage of low interest rates, and still sell. Prices are relatively good for a seller. All right. If you got questions, I want to hear them, and definitely subscribe. We're going to keep you posted on what's going on with mortgage rates and home values and anything else that affects buying or selling a home. This is Ron Wysokarski for the Blackola Real Estate.